I am so done with Boogie2988. And I say that because I'm one of the handful of content creators that was giving him slack in a way that I don't know if it was early this year or if it was last year. I made a video on my main channel saying, like, does he really deserve the levels of hate that he's getting? And I pretty much said no. I think people are going way too hard in the paint because realistically, what was he doing? He was just some sad, pathetic guy just kind of sabotaging himself, right? And at that extent, it's like, yeah, you can laugh at the lolcow and everything like that, but why you gotta mess with him? You know, it's to the point where, like, that one dude showed up to his house. Like, I don't wish that on anybody, man. That's pretty messed up, right? So it was one of those things that the type of video essays and stuff like that I would see on Boogie, I would say, is this really warranted, or is it what it obviously is, a cash grab, right? It's extremely lucrative to just punch at this guy. You know, throw some shade at him, make some videos. People are going to click on it because they want to, they like it. It's just an easy target. So I understand why people were doing it, but I was saying, did he deserve it? And I was like, no. But I feel differently. Like, I don't think he still deserved the level of stuff that was going on with, like, that dude showing up to his house and everything. But as far as the type of criticism and the shade that has been thrown his way as of recent, it's like, yeah, it's completely warranted. It was to the point where it kind of, it started to, there was the crescendo, which was the documentary, and then within the documentary, or technically kind of before, because he announced his girlfriend before the documentary dropped, which was kind of my more of like, all right, dude, you're a piece of trash, because it's obvious when you see who this person is. You see this girl, you know she's troubled, you know they trauma bonded. He admitted it too, so it's not even speculation. And you're like, bro, you're too old to be taking advantage of this 20-year-old girl. Yeah, she's an adult and everything, but you should have the wisdom, the experience, or just the decency enough to not get her involved in your life, because you know this, it's only going to end bad for her. Like, especially like this dude, he's not healthy. He thinks he's going to die pretty soon because he's not doing what he needs to do to get better. And so it's like, okay, so you're just hooking up with this girl and then she's going to die and just be worse off. It's not like you have a bunch of money. Boogie doesn't have a ton of money to leave to her or anything. It's just all negative. It's just net negatives. It's positive for Boogie. It's like, oh, I get to bang this skinny fucking ginger chick. Like, this is great for me. But it's not about you. It shouldn't be about you. And so that was the thing where I'm like, dude, all right, screw this dude. Documentary comes out. I see the title. What is it called? Like, the sad, pathetic life of Boogie or whatever it's called, something like that. And I'm just like, well, why? Like, I don't mind documentaries showcasing all the sad and pathetic stuff that happens in someone's life, but then there's usually a point to it. Like, say, recently I was watching the part 2 of Super Size Me. I seen the first one a long time ago. And there was a point to showing all the messed up stuff within the fast food industry. There's a point to show you the nasty sides of it. Food Inc., a documentary showing you kind of like how animals can be abused and all this stuff, or showing you some of the slaughter tactics and stuff. There's a point to it. It's not just, here it is for the sake of it, right? There's a point to it. And so in a lot of documentaries, there's some really uneasy stuff to see, but there's a point to it. So it would have been nice if there was a point to showing how sad his life is, and maybe he was planning on rising. Maybe he was planning on actually, you know, being the phoenix that he's once tried to do, right? He got a gastric bypass, and anyone who does that is obviously trying to better their life. But then you have a lot of people who, they just don't take it seriously. They don't follow up. They don't stick to it. It's like, you have this thing, man, you spend a lot of money on it, you gotta go hard in the paint now. And he just didn't do it. Just not serious about it, you know? I gave him a lot of slack back in the day because it felt like, all right, this dude is clinically depressed and all this stuff, and all that stuff still may be true, but he's also like a masochist. He's also a glutton for punishment and humiliation. It's to the point where he just can't stay away from social media when it's so easy. Just get a fucking handler, dude. Get a handler. Okay, so you have this girl, right? Okay, get her as your handler. Don't see any of that stuff. I don't care how much you crave it. You have to stay away from it. He just doesn't care. He says, I'm going to try to do this, and then immediately goes on Twitter and starts reading all the stuff and clarifying and saying this and clapping back. And I'm like, bro, like, you can't do this. And then there's what recently happened. So he's been getting into some beef with a lot of people. Mudahar of Some Ordinary Gamers, they were beefing for whatever reason. And then Boogie, for whatever reason, reached out to his wife, Dojangles. And by the way, I didn't even know they were married, so congrats to them. I should probably message her and say congrats. I just forget that I'm like, what the fuck? I guess maybe they didn't make it public. I don't know where I missed it, but I digress. I'm just saying, like, they got into some beef about that kind of stuff. And then there was beef because Boogie is a part of a podcast called the LolCal Podcast, or LolCal Live. It has Wings of Redemption and Tommy C. So it's supposed to be like, all right, so let these locals do their thing. It'll be very entertaining. It's going to be a little sad. It's going to be a little pathetic, but it should be entertainment nonetheless. Fair enough. So the show, episode 1 drops, right? But Boogie goes out of his way to not only promote the podcast, go way above and beyond, and pretty much talk about things that should be exclusively talked about on the podcast. Now, Keemstar is the one that set this podcast up and invested money into it and everything. So Keemstar gets really mad when Boogie goes on to a YouTuber named Review Tech USA stream. Review Tech USA is streaming. Boogie shows up. They talk. They're talking about the beef with Mudahar. Mudahar shows up, and there's just like back and forths and all this beef, all this drama that Keemstar's freaking out that, like, I'm the drama king. This stuff should be exclusively set for or held for the LolCal Podcast. So Keemstar freaks out. I get it to a certain extent. Him freaking out, I don't get, because it got leaked at how badly he freaked out. There were these voice messages of him just screaming, saying how much he hates Boogie, just screaming at him and everything. And then Keemstar ironically says, get on your hands and knees and apologize to all the people involved in the podcast. And you know what Boogie does? If you saw the thumbnail, you know what he did. He unironically got on his hands and knees, got his 20-year-old girlfriend to record it, and he groveled and said he was sorry.
I'm sorry, Tommy C. I'm sorry, Daddy Keemstar. I'm sorry, Nicholas Di Fiorio. I don't know how to pronounce him. I'm sorry, Jordy.
And it was one of those things where you're just like kind of jaw dropped. You're like, oh, that is actually one of the most pathetic things I've ever seen, because it wasn't even like ironic. There was not, even if it was ironic, nothing good would come from it being ironic or unironic. It's complete negative. There is nothing positive. There's no spin on it, unless if he did something like, oh, somebody who's creative could have found a way to do something and make it funny, like maybe. But no, he was already apologizing in the voice messages, saying he screwed up, he knows this, he's an idiot, he's trash. And so he does the same thing, but on his hands and knees, and it's like, dude, you know that this was going to get leaked. Why are you like, the only thing I can think of, it's like, no, at the end of the day, there's no such thing as bad publicity, so people are going to stop by his videos and leave nasty comments, and it's going to like increase his revenue by a little bit. It'll maybe have people stop by the LolCal Podcast more, increase the numbers, and maybe they can get some good sponsors. Maybe all that stuff, that's what he's thinking. But if he's thinking that, it's like, it's at the expense of your dignity. You know, this is totally different from, say, like how a girl will get on OnlyFans or whatever, and people say, "Oh, at the expense of your dignity," and I'm like, bro, there's really, unless you're like religious, there's nothing. Who cares about people doing sex work? Who actually cares? Is it actually humiliating? Is the act of what you're doing? No, like, people behind closed doors do that type of stuff all the time. Is it humiliating? No. They're just monetizing it. Fair enough. But actually doing humiliating, embarrassing things, like groveling on your hands and knees, apologizing to someone who doing that to Keemstar of all people too. It's crazy. So it's like, bro, I can't. There is in no way, shape, or form I can defend this guy at all. It's done. It's like you had somebody who felt somewhat empathetic for you. I met him years ago, and he seemed chill. I heard otherwise from some other people. Like actually, he was in. I see him around some of the houses I was staying in VidCon, and some people were saying he was kind of saying some really grotesque stuff and being all edgy. And I'm like, I didn't see it. I saw him. I did not stick around and see what that was all about. So, you know, whatever it is, what it is. But yeah, it's just like, sorry, man. You've lost a lot of people who felt bad for you. There's some people now, all they do is just pity. It's just pretty much pity at this point. So it's like, bro, you know, I guess, well, that's what you wanted, though. So, good for you, I guess. I mean, all I can say is, man, I hope that chick runs away. I hope she smartens up and runs away, because there's just no good situation for her. She's like, feels happy now, but then if Boogie passes away soon because he won't, you know, fix his health, he won't get into shape. Even if he does survive longer, it's like this type of lifestyle and dealing with this kind of crap and basically being his caretaker is like, bro, is that what you wanted? Is that what you saw your life being? Like, damn, dude. Like, of course, like I said, you're an adult, you can do what you want to do, but still, even my adult friends, peers, just adults, just people in general, you want to see them do the best for themselves. You want to see the best versions of people, and there's no way she can be the best version of herself by being with this dude. It's just so selfish of him. It's gross, man. But that's all I got to say, man. Let me know what you guys think. If you do me a favor, hit the like button on the way out. Share this if if you want. If there's a community of Boogie haters, like I remember there was a community of what's that guy's name? Onision. They called them the anti-O's. Are there the anti-Boogies? If there are, just kind of there was like anti-Brendan Schaub people, the homeless cats. If there's people like that, send them my way, man. Send them my way, because I'm on board. All right, take care.